What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, Create Space. Link will be in the description box below as usual. Go get it. PayPal link there. Also, they asked me to put it up, so I put it up. Thanks for supporting. But this video, though, is entitled How You Can Find or Lose Your Passion. Exposure. Like sometimes you don't know what your calling is because you're not exposed. You haven't tried things. You haven't. So if you don't try a lot of things, you don't know what that thing is that makes you, that gives you purpose, that makes you feel alive, right? And I remember coming up where I would try certain things and I liked them, but not so much. And there were certain things that just felt like a natural passion that I wanted to perfect. It's not necessarily, sometimes you gravitate to certain things, but other things, when you're exposed to things, it makes you think about it day and night. You become fixated on it. And you want to be good at it. So when you expose yourself to different things, you have to be able to be open enough to try something new and maybe succeed, or for the most part fail. Because when you're just starting something, you're probably not going to be that good at it, but something in you likes to pursue it. You want to get better at it. You want to test yourself. And a lot of times, finding your passion or your purpose or your calling is, in some ways, you learn more about yourself along the way. Because now you dive headfirst into something that in some ways makes life worth living, and in other ways makes you a better person, because you got to hone in on your own imperfections to actually be good. So what are you doing when you're exposed to things? You become open. Sometimes you become humble because people have to teach you how to get better at the thing that you are passionate about. And if you're really passionate about something, you're open to get taught, because it's a practical way to see yourself as better than you are today. But whatever that calling or that passion or that purpose is, what it winds up doing is it gives you a drive to get up in the morning and be better, tomorrow than you are today. Now, along that process, you kind of, you're going to hit a lot of bumps in the road. And this is where some people who are exposed can lose their calling or purpose and passion, because to a degree, you're going to have to compete with your purpose, with your calling, with your passion. You're going to run into individuals who have the same purpose and passion as you. May not have the same skill set as you, but they have but whatever that thing is, it's what gives them life also. And they're willing to put it all on the line just like you. And then you have this battle of wills. And, some people can handle it and some people get their will broken. And if you've been in certain scenarios in life, you know that you can really see a person's will break in their eyes when it happens. I mean, if you're competing against them, it's a great thing, but if it's somebody close to you, it's a horrible thing. Or if it's you it may be a life altering thing, because when you're competing, you're going against other people, and you might think you want it until you meet somebody else who wants it more than you, or you might think you're skilled until you meet somebody who's more skilled than you, and sometimes you're going to have to pack a lunch, and sometimes people send you back to the drawing board. Depends. So, in a weird way, you could lose your calling because you got punked. And it's really not necessarily the person or the situation that did it, it's your mind. Because when your mind says, I had enough, everything else shuts down. When your mind says, keep going, you're going to find a way to get it done. So it's more mental than anything. Now, another thing about this is you could find your calling just by happenstance. Sometimes you might just, be dabbling with something, or somebody may introduce you to your calling. You don't even know it. You just there to, maybe be support or keep company, or you just happen to, pull up in a certain thing and it just clicks. You're like, yo, I'm into this. And you kind of got recruited into a calling, or introduced into it in a weird way. Some things are just in the stars. And sometimes, I've seen people, you just missed your passion or your calling, your purpose at a particular time in your life. Now, eventually, life is funny like that. It'll come back to you. But when it does, you can reflect on the time you was like, you know what? I could have done this years ago, but I made a left when I should have made a right. And, it happens. That happens. But whenever you find it, it's always a good time, because truth be told, you can have multiple passions, multiple purposes, multiple callings in life. Another thing is you got to answer that call, though. Like, some of us procrastinate ourselves out, or our fear of where it might take us, or to a degree, we let life get in the way. Like, I can't, life got in the way, so it's a sign that I'm not supposed to do it. When, truth be told, if you want something, you're going to have to go through the trials and tribulations of life and that thing, and do that thing. It's not going to be easy. And that's the other thing about a calling. Sometimes a calling is easy, and sometimes it's hard. Some people gravitate better to it's easy, and some people, they have to fight for that calling. And this is how you could, find it, and sometimes this is how you could lose your passion, because what winds up happening is, if it comes easy to you, you might not want to deal with the adversity when things get hard. And if it's always hard, you might think it's going to always be hard, so you might give up before it gets easy. So you got to understand the nuance, and just keep your nose to the ground, because if you focus on your passion or your purpose or your calling, if you really buy into that and go in that direction, eventually it's going to take you everywhere you want it to go. But don't necessarily do it for it to take you where you want to go. Do it because that's your passion. Listening to somebody talk like Miles Davis, he's like, He was a musician. He could hear it in his head no matter what he did. You know, if he was a janitor, he'd be a musician janitor. You know, because that's his calling. You know, I'm sure painters are the same way. I'm sure architects are the same way. I'm sure business-minded people are the same way. I'm sure athletes are the same way. You know, fighters are the same way. You always, no matter what you're doing, that's your calling, that's your passion, right? And people forget, it's going to be with you until there's no life left in your body. So if that's the case and you find it, pursue it. And if that's the case and you lose that passion, you better go find that spark and get it back, because it's part of the reason why you're here. So we done. Peace.